Yo, what is up, guys? It is K8 here, and I know I've been gone for a while, but I am back into my regular schedule. So, today we're going to be making kind of what you just heard. It's sort of a versatile preset that is kind of usable in genres like bass house and hybrid trap and dubstep and a lot of other like very heavy type of preset designs. So, today, instead of doing a very traditional tutorial where I take you through every single little parameter and I show you how to make it all from initialized preset, I'd rather just give you 4 essential tips on of what I'm doing essentially to get this kind of preset and how I design like hundreds of these presets every month. So let's just get started on tip number 1, which is where I like to start when I have a new initialized preset, which is basically in the effects. I like to kind of work backwards a little bit, so I like to work into EQ and compression right off the bat. So of course there's a lot of like effects that I like to have, like hyper and distortion and reverb and phaser and all that. But my essential effects, the ones I have to start with, so this is like tip number 1 already, is high shelf EQ and multiband compression, because these two things are what usually people do when they're done designing a preset, and that's what it's sort of like finishing touches. It just makes your preset sound polished. It's just more interesting to hear it, multiband compressed and to have that high shelf gain. So this probably looks like a lot of gain, but truthfully, this just adds so much color into the preset. It makes it not sound flat. So as soon as you try this, you'll see that it just brings a whole new life to a preset. It's like once you hear it, you can't unhear it or not have it. So our second step is filtering. Serum is so awesome for filtering. Its types of filters are just insane. So the type of filters I'm talking about are all in the flange section and all in the miscellaneous section. So any of these filters will usually do. So I really love the comb filters. I'm a huge fan of comb filters, and the flange ones are really awesome. The phase ones are really awesome. So use these because these have a lot of very interesting frequency content that's happening. So they add a lot of texture. They really have kind of sweet spots the more you scan through them with the cutoff. They're just very, very good for this kind of sound design. So usually one is great, like having one of these type of filters is enough, but I like to have 2 of these. So I like to have usually maybe a comb filter and a flange, but on across the 2 filter types, or the 2 filters that you have in Serum. But also some of the miscellaneous ones like the formants and the combs and the reverb are all just as good. So let's maybe turn off our filters so you can get an idea of how important these filters are to this patch and these kind of patches. So this is actually kind of taking me into step 3, which is all about the LFO taking over and not relying on envelope 1 at all. So I'll say that again because that maybe was confusing. Basically, envelope 1 is our ADSR. It's our amp envelope. The shape of this is basically the shape of our oscillators and how they output. So we're going to just ignore that. We don't really want to use an envelope because envelopes are just not as interesting as LFOs. LFOs, they can ramp up, they can speed up, they can do all this kind of crazy stuff. So what I do is I pull down all the oscillator levels down all the way, and then I just put an LFO 1 on it, and basically now the shape of the LFO is kind of like our ADSR now. It's what and how the oscillators open up. So now it's like we've hijacked envelope 1, even though we can still tweak this and get and shape our sound from this. We don't need to do that anymore. And I apply LFO 1 onto pretty much all my important parameters, like wavetable position especially, whatever morph thing I'm using, and of course my oscillator levels. And everything else is, just extra from there, like my drive and resonance on my filter. Like I love doing that, but it's not something I have to do. I can even just take these off and just set it to a nice sweet spot, and that's good enough. So really I don't have to go modulation crazy, but it's really more the shape and the way that the LFO will speed up. And one more thing I want to say is it's really, really important with these custom wavetables to think of them sort of more like samples, because when I brought all these custom wavetables into Serum, I added more frames to them. I made them play a little bit more smoothly, and so that they're nice and crisp and clean. So you kind of want to think of it as like a sample. Like, you're not going to get that it's a Rooster wavetable just by having the wavetable position in one spot. You kind of want the LFO to play it through. So I have a preset called Charmander 4 from my Pokemon pack, and like this one especially, like you notice with the LFO 1, it's the same exact thing. Like, you could see how the LFO 1 controls the wavetable position. So this longer sort of shape is going to open up the sound more like a natural speed and make it sound like it's playing a sample. So like if I just play this, it's really cool. It opens up in a more natural way. So that's something to keep in mind when you're using custom wavetables and you're putting LFOs on the wavetable position to open those up. So you could also just use an envelope if you want and do the same kind of thing, but I like using LFOs. So let's go back to that one preset. It really doesn't matter. It can just go to another one if I want from that pack. So this is a bird call pack. This is actually a good example for this preset, because the last step I wanted to give you was, now that we control everything with LFO1, like our oscillator levels, and we have modulation going on with it, and we have this kind of tight shapes to it usually, what's fun to do is to add an envelope to this, or you could add another LFO, but envelopes are a little easier to work with in this case. So what we're going to do is take envelope 2 and we're going to place it on our LFO1 rate. So LFO1 controls everything, and envelope 2 now speeds up this the rate of that LFO, and it gives us something very, very... Let's go ahead and bypass this and play you this preset just how it would be without this envelope 2, and then we're going to add it back in, and you're going to see how awesome that is. Huge fucking difference, right? That is just so much more fun than having to open up automation lanes and do all this crazy shit. I really hated that. I used to make dubstep in like 2011, and back then, you relied so much on like having lanes and racks of like third-party plugins right after your synth. So usually it would be like 40 plugins after this. That's a bit exaggerated, but it was a lot. And then you'd have to have tons of automation lanes and EQ shit happening, and I just love Serum because I don't have to do anything else like outside of Serum. I can have all my effects and modulations, and I can have my crazy LFO speeds and all that just all inside of Serum. So that's why I kind of recommend Serum for this kind of music, or bass house, dubstep, anything that needs some fucking heavy presets. Use motherfucking Serum, I swear. Alright, so that's everything I wanted to show you guys. Let's just recap really quickly what the 4 tips were. Tip 1 was EQ, high shelf EQ, and multiband compression, because that just always makes a preset sound very tight and polished. Tip 2 was flange filters, especially using 2 of them and finding the sweet spots and having high resonance on those. Really easy way to bring a lot of character and texture into a preset, and especially bring out what's good in the wavetables. Tip 3 was to use LFO1 to control our oscillator levels, so pretty much to use it like our main ADSR, and to also just use it on things like our wavetable position. Again, we're trying to bring out what's interesting in the wavetables. And tip 4 was then just to add an envelope to the rate of the LFO, so that way we can have sort of a ramping up or a sort of automated type of action happening. So it's really, really cool. Those are the 4 tips. One last thing I want to say is, I keep talking about these custom wavetables and all this stuff and showing you these awesome presets. That's all from my new Bird Call Serum pack, so that's a preset bank that I worked on all last month. It has 30 custom wavetables of birds, so that's what I designed all the presets out of. The 64 presets are all designed from those 30 custom bird wavetables, and I'm so proud of it, and it would mean a lot to me if you checked it out on my SoundCloud for the preview and bought it on my website. right now, or whenever you want. But check it out, at least. I'm so proud of it, and I've sent it to a few people to kind of give me their thoughts on it, just friends of mine, and they just loved it, and I'm getting such great feedback on it. And also, next Monday, my Pokemon Serum Bank comes out, so that'll be on Beatport Sounds and my website, and there's a preview for that right now on SoundCloud as well. So check all that stuff out. Links are down below. And thanks, guys, for watching. I was on summer break, and now I'm back, so expect videos every week, just like always. And thanks. And late.